My name is Hilda B. Jenkins, 29 years old, and for 3 years I thought I was building a future with a man who simply needed time. I work as a systems architect, designing cloud infrastructure for mid-sized companies. It is not glamorous, not the kind of job people ask follow-up questions about at parties, but it pays well and gives me a life I worked hard for. For a long time, I thought that life had a clear direction, a shared apartment, a future home, maybe kids someday, maybe a dog in a backyard. And at the center of all of it was Brooks. Brooks was 27 when we met at a friend's barbecue in the summer of 2021. He worked in marketing for a boutique firm downtown, and he had the kind of laugh that made strangers look over and smile before they even knew why. He was charming without trying too hard, attentive in a way that made me feel chosen, and by fall, we were practically inseparable. By the next spring, I was sure, we moved in together after a year, splitting rent on a decent 2-bedroom in the suburbs. Nothing fancy but warm. There were coffee mugs that somehow became ours, a couch we fought over and then bought together, and a little balcony where Brooks kept saying we should grow herbs, even though neither of us remembered to water anything. We talked about the future constantly. Kids. A house. Where we would spend holidays. What kind of parents we might become. It all felt real enough that I started planning around it. I saved seriously. I cut back on nights out, skipped trips I wanted to take, and stopped buying little things that used to make me happy because I told myself I was investing in something bigger. Brooks noticed sometimes and teased me for being practical. "You're always 10 steps ahead, Hilda," he would say. I thought he meant it with love. Last October, I finally brought up marriage directly. We were at his favorite Italian place, the one with terrible parking, but carbonara good enough to make you forgive the whole neighborhood. The table was small, the lighting soft, and Brooks looked beautiful in that careless way that used to make my chest ache. I did not have a ring. I did not want to pressure him with a dramatic scene. I just wanted to say out loud what I thought we both already knew. "I'm ready," I told him. "I want to spend my life with you." He smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. That was the first warning. "I think we should wait," he said, cutting his pasta into smaller and smaller pieces. "I'm not saying no. I'm just saying not yet." I respected that. At least, I tried to. I told myself love meant patience. People had different timelines. Maybe he wanted to feel more financially secure. Maybe he wanted to grow in his career first. Maybe he needed time to imagine marriage not as a trap, but as a choice. So I waited, but waiting became confusing. Every few weeks, I would bring it up gently. Not in a dramatic way, not with ultimatums, just small questions. "Have you thought more about it? Or, do you have a timeline in mind?" Brooks always gave me soft answers that somehow said nothing. "Soon. Not yet. I love you. But I need space to think." Each time, I swallowed my disappointment and told myself progress did not always look like movement. Then came that Tuesday night in late March. We were watching something on Netflix. I do not even remember what. The apartment was dim except for the television, and Brooks was curled at the other end of the couch with his phone face down beside him. During a quiet moment, I said carefully, "Have you thought any more about what we talked about?" He paused the show. Then he turned to me with an expression I had never seen before. Cold, flat, almost annoyed, like I was a stranger interrupting him at a bus stop. "From now on, I will decide when we get married," he said. "Stop putting pressure on me." The words landed slowly, one after another, until the room felt smaller. I opened my mouth, closed it. For a second, every version of myself argued inside my head. The woman who loved him wanted to explain. The woman who had waited wanted to cry. The woman who had sacrificed wanted to demand why her future had become something he got to ration out whenever he felt generous. Instead, I nodded. Then I stood up and went to the bedroom. That was the last real conversation we had, for 3 weeks. The next morning, I woke early, made coffee, got dressed, and went to work. When I came home, I made dinner, cleaned the kitchen, and went to bed. I did not ask about his day. I did not bring up marriage. I did not chase his mood around the apartment like it was my job to repair. On day 2, he noticed. "Are you seriously giving me the silent treatment?" Brooks asked, standing in the kitchen doorway. "No," I said. "You told me to stop pressuring you. I'm respecting that." His face tightened. "That is not what I meant." I looked at him. "Then, what did you mean?" He did not answer. By the end of the first week, our apartment felt like a museum of a relationship. Everything still looked the same, but nothing was alive. We moved around each other carefully, politely, like roommates afraid of touching a bruise. Sometimes Brooks tried casual conversation, work, dinner, a show we used to like. I answered briefly, kindly enough that he could not call me cruel, but not warmly enough to pretend nothing had changed. I was not punishing him. I was finally listening to what he had said. If he wanted to decide when our future began, then I had to decide how long I was willing to stand outside the door. Week 2 was when Brooks started going out more. At first, he framed it casually. Drinks with coworkers. A late meeting that turned into dinner. A boys' night he had forgotten to mention. Gym sessions that lasted 3 hours, even though he came home smelling more like cologne than sweat. I did not ask questions. That was the part that bothered him most. Before, I would have asked where he was going, what time he would be back, whether he wanted me to wait up, not because I wanted to control him, but because I had believed we were partners. Now, I let him leave. The first night he came home after midnight, he paused in the bedroom doorway like he expected me to sit up and demand answers. I was reading in bed. I looked over the top of my book and said, "Hey." That was it. He frowned. "That's all. What else do you need?" "I don't know. You usually ask where I was." "You're an adult, Brooks." He stood there for a second, jaw tight, then disappeared into the bathroom. I heard the sink run longer than necessary. I think he wanted me to follow the sound. I didn't. It was strange how quickly silence became information. Without the constant noise of me trying to fix us, I could finally hear what the relationship sounded like when I stopped carrying it. And what I heard was emptiness. I started making plans, quietly, practically. Not revenge plans, survival plans. During lunch breaks, I looked at studio apartments within my budget. At night, after Brooks went to bed or left the apartment, I calculated what it would cost to break the lease early. I opened a spreadsheet and divided our belongings in my head. The desk was mine. The espresso machine was his. The couch we bought together, and I hated that couch now anyway. Every item became a question. Would I miss this? Or would I only miss the version of us attached to it? My friend Cameron noticed something was wrong when I showed up to poker night for the first time in months. He looked me up and down as I walked into his apartment. "You look like a woman who either needs whiskey or a shovel." "Cards are fine," I said. "Where's Brooks?" "Home, I guess. I don't know." Cameron raised an eyebrow, but he was smart enough not to push in front of everyone. We played cards, drank beer, and for a few hours, I remembered what it felt like to be a person outside of a failing relationship. Nobody asked me about timelines. Nobody made me feel needy for wanting a future. I laughed once, genuinely, and the sound surprised me. When I got home around 11, the apartment was dark. Brooks's bedroom door was closed. We had started sleeping separately, without formally discussing it. One of those quiet arrangements that says everything people are too afraid to say. A thin line of light glowed under his door, and I heard his voice through the wood, low and careful. "No, she doesn't know," he said. I stopped in the hallway. Then he said, "I just need more time." My stomach tightened, but I kept walking. I did not press my ear to the door. I did not burst in. I did not turn one overheard sentence into a courtroom. I went to my room, closed the door, and lay awake staring at the ceiling. By the end of week 3, I barely saw him. He left early, came home late. Sometimes he slept at the apartment. Sometimes I woke up and realized he had never come home at all. Then, on Friday morning, I opened the closet and saw that his suitcase was gone. No note, no text, no explanation. The strange part was that I did not cry. I just stood there looking at the empty space on the closet floor and felt nothing. That scared me more than heartbreak would have. Saturday afternoon, I called my older brother Lawrence. He was the kind of person who could hear one sentence and understand the whole storm behind it. I told him everything from the restaurant conversation to the Netflix fight to the missing suitcase. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "So what are you going to do?" "I think I'm done." "You think?" I closed my eyes. "I know." "Good," he said. "Then stick to it. Don't let him come back crying and talk you into another 6 months of waiting." "I won't. You say that now because he isn't standing in front of you." That hit too close. That evening, Lawrence showed up with takeout, wine, and the emotional subtlety of a brick through a window. He dropped the food on the kitchen counter and said, "We are not spending tonight analyzing a man who needed 3 years and still couldn't answer a basic question." I almost smiled. "What are we doing instead?" "Eating noodles and watching something with explosions." So we did. We sat on the couch, ate straight from takeout containers, and watched a terrible action movie where every problem could apparently be solved by running away from fire in slow motion. For the first time in weeks, the apartment felt less haunted. Around 9, Lawrence helped me clean up. He was rinsing plastic containers in the sink when there was a soft knock at the door. 3 gentle taps. We both froze. Lawrence looked at me. "Want me to answer it?" "No," I said. "I've got it." I opened the door. Brooks stood there with his hair pulled back messily, eyes red, face pale, like he had driven there rehearsing something and forgotten every word. His gaze landed on me first, then moved past my shoulder to Lawrence standing in the kitchen. And just like that, Brooks broke. Tears filled his eyes and spilled over before he could stop them. Not quiet tears, full shaking sobs that seemed too large for the hallway. "Who is he?" Brooks choked out. I blinked at him. "That's my brother." Brooks stared at me like I had spoken another language. "Your what?" "My brother, Lawrence. You've met him." Lawrence lifted one hand awkwardly. "Hey, Brooks." Brooks covered his mouth, shoulders shaking. "I thought you moved on. I thought you found someone else." I stared at him, stunned by the accusation, the panic, the sheer hypocrisy of it. 3 weeks of distance, a missing suitcase, secretive phone calls, nights out without explanations. And somehow, in his mind, I was the one who had replaced him. Lawrence grabbed his jacket from the chair. "I'm going to head out. Call me tomorrow." He squeezed my shoulder as he passed. It was not dramatic, but the pressure of his hand said exactly what he had warned me earlier. "Be careful." When he was gone, Brooks stood in the doorway wiping his face with his sleeve. "You want to come in?" I asked. He nodded. He stepped inside slowly, like the apartment was no longer his. We sat on opposite ends of the same couch where he had told me he would decide our future. The silence between us was different now. Sharper. Final in a way neither of us wanted to name. "I was at my mom's," he said finally. I needed to think. "Okay. I've been confused." "I know. When you shut down, I thought I lost you." I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt the last thread of hope pull tight. "Brooks," I said, "what do you want?" He swallowed. "I want us to work. That is not what I asked." His eyes flickered. "What do you want?" I repeated. "Marriage? Kids? A life together? Or do you want me sitting here quietly while you keep one foot out the door until something better comes along?" His face changed, and that was how I knew there was finally a truth coming. Brooks stared at his hands for a long time before he said it. "There's something I need to tell you." My stomach dropped, but I kept my voice steady. "Then say it." He swallowed. "When I told you I wasn't ready, it wasn't really about timing. I already knew somehow. Then what was it about?" "Money." The word sat between us, small but ugly. He looked ashamed, but not ashamed enough to stop. Your salary is good, Hilda. Really good. But I kept thinking about the kind of life I wanted. My sister and her husband just bought that house in Riverside. 4 bedrooms, huge yard, pool. He's a cardiologist. They travel all the time. She works because she wants to, not because she has to. I felt my face go cold. So I'm not rich enough. That's not what I mean. It is exactly what you mean. He rubbed his forehead. I love you. I do. But I don't know if I can handle being middle class forever. There it was. The truth he had dressed up as confusion, space, and pressure. For months, he had let me wonder what I was doing wrong when the answer was simple. I was enough for love, but not enough for the lifestyle he wanted. So you kept me waiting, I said quietly, just in case someone wealthier came along. His eyes filled again. That's not fair. No, Brooks. What wasn't fair was letting me build a future around you while you were comparing me to your sister's husband. He stood, grabbing his jacket like leaving first might make him less guilty. I should go. Yes, I said. You should. At the door he turned back. For what it's worth, I really did love you. Past tense, I said. He flinched. I still do. I just don't know if it's enough. That was the last answer I needed. Then we're done. 2 weeks later, I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment 20 minutes from work. Smaller, quieter, and mine. Brooks texted several times. He asked if we could talk, if I was really leaving, if there was any chance to try again. On moving day, one message came through. I made a mistake. I see that now. Please, Hilda. I stared at it for a long time. Then I blocked him. Cameron helped me move, cracked open 2 cheap beers in my empty living room, and said, "To new beginnings." To new beginnings, I said. The first month was strange. Silence followed me from room to room. But slowly, it stopped feeling lonely and started feeling clean. I cooked what I wanted, went to the gym when I wanted, said yes to concerts, weekend trips, and a pottery class I had always been curious about. 2 months later, I saw Brooks at a grocery store near our old apartment. He was with a woman in expensive clothes standing beside a Tesla in the parking lot. He saw me too. His smile faltered. Then he turned away like I was part of a life he had already edited out. I felt nothing. 6 months later, I got promoted to lead architect with a 20% raise. I traveled more. Boston, Seattle, Austin. I met people who cared about ideas, work, books, food, not whether my paycheck could buy someone else's fantasy. A year later, I heard through mutual friends that Brooks got engaged to that woman. Apparently, she came from money. They bought a house in Riverside, close to his sister. 4 bedrooms, pool, the whole dream he had been too embarrassed to admit he wanted more than me. I did not hate him for it. I was relieved I was not the one funding a dream where I was never truly enough. I'm 30 now. Good job, quiet apartment, decent life. I'm dating casually. Recently, I met someone named Isaac, a graphic designer with his own business and no interest in measuring love against anyone's bank account. We are taking it slow. No pressure, no timelines, just honesty. Sometimes I think about the night Brooks showed up crying because my brother was standing in the apartment. How quickly he assumed I had replaced him. How little he trusted me after 3 years. Maybe that should have been the red flag from the beginning, but at least I saw it eventually. I don't know if Brooks cheated during those 3 weeks. I don't care anymore. The emotional betrayal was enough. I spent 3 years fighting for a future with someone who was still shopping for a better one. Now, for the first time in years, I am not waiting for someone else to decide if I am enough. I already know I am.